King Solomon merely waved his hand, and the jinn was instantly captured into the bottle before him. He then threw the bottle out the window. At that moment, an eagle happened to pass by, catching the bottle and flying off into the distance. The eagle eventually reached the vast expanse of the ocean and dropped the bottle into the sea. 2,500 years later, the now rusted bottle was finally retrieved by a fisherman, but it was discarded as a mere stone. Many years passed before the bottle was discovered once again, this time among the bones of a soldier. A physician used the bottle to grind medicine, and a worker used it to build a wall. As centuries of dynastic changes and wars came and went, one day, a slave named Gulten stepped on the bottle to climb a wall, eager to catch a glimpse of the prince she had long admired. However, Gulten was accidentally spotted by the prince, and in her fright, she lost her footing and fell from the wall. The stone tumbled down with Gulten, and the exposed bottle immediately piqued her curiosity. She took the bottle home, eager to investigate. In her clumsy attempts to open it, Gulten accidentally knocked off the bottle's cap. Suddenly, smoke billowed out, and a massive shadow appeared above Gulten. Turning to see what it was, Gulten fainted from fright. To adapt to the surroundings, the jinn transformed into a human-sized figure. The jinn worked to awaken Gulten and told her that she could have 3 wishes, which would free the jinn from King Solomon's curse. He also warned Gulten to hide the bottle, for if it fell into another's hands, the wishes would belong to them. Gulten's first wish was for Prince Mustafa to fall in love with her. Her first wish was granted. However, the palace was fraught with hidden dangers. Queen Hurrem, determined to secure the throne for her own son, sought every opportunity to harm Mustafa. Her chance soon came. Kind King Suleiman, who preferred poetry and painting to war, had incurred the dissatisfaction of his generals. The generals plotted a coup in Mustafa's presence, aiming to install him as the new king. Unbeknownst to them, King Suleiman overheard their plans. Spurred on by Hurrem's manipulation, King Suleiman decided it was time to eliminate Mustafa. King Suleiman secretly summoned Mustafa for an audience, only to end his life with a bowstring. To eliminate all threats, they also planned to kill Gulten and the child she carried. The jinn pleaded with Gulten to quickly make her 3rd wish, thus protecting her and her unborn child. However, the sudden shock overwhelmed Gulten, and she fled into a tunnel alone. The jinn struggled to open a wooden door and chased after her. Unexpectedly, Gulten ran straight into the arms of a guard. The jinn prepared to rescue Gulten from the guard, but this clearly violated some rule. A cursed guardian appeared just in time, his eyes glaring like copper bells, then transforming into a spider that caused the jinn to collapse in fear. The spider's eyes were furious, and it instantly transformed into thousands of spiders. The jinn could only curl up on the ground, crying like a helpless child. By then, Gulten had already been thrown off the city wall. Finally free, the jinn rushed out of the tunnel, then recklessly leaped off the wall to save Gulten, but it was clearly too late, and he could only hold Gulten under the moonlight in sorrow. A greater tragedy followed. Since the jinn had not fulfilled all 3 of Gulten's wishes, his curse remained unbroken. The bottle, which Gulten had hidden perfectly, once again became the jinn's eternal prison. Countless seasons and dynasties passed. Every night, the jinn called out, hoping someone would discover him. One day, someone finally heard the jinn's call. A boy opened the dusty iron door, pushed through the cobwebs, and finally reached the stone slab where the jinn was trapped. The enormous stone slab weighed hundreds of pounds, and even with a steel knife, the boy couldn't pry it open. Another boy arrived, and together they managed to lift the stone slab. Just then, their mother appeared and stopped them. The jinn once again missed the chance to gain his freedom, but he witnessed the rise and fall of this dynasty. At age 11, the boy ascended the throne. By 20, he led armies into battles far and wide. Everyone thought he would surely be defeated, but he miraculously won the war with a smaller force. However, the war completely shattered Murad IV's sanity, and he never parted from his blood-stained armor. Facing this murderous tyrant, his mother planned to destroy Murad IV completely. First, she provided Murad IV with an endless supply of wine, keeping him in a constant state of intoxication. She then brought the best storytellers from across the country, hoping to distract him with their tales. But none of the storytellers' stories ever moved Murad IV, and they were all mercilessly executed. But there was this old man, the last of the storytellers, who easily impressed Murad IV with every story he told. This old man was also the only storyteller to die of natural causes. The old man's death plunged Murad IV into endless sorrow once more. One day, he finally heard the jinn's call again. However, by this time, Murad IV's body had been utterly drained by wine. He trembled as he made his way through the long-sealed cobwebs. Just when the Djinn thought he might finally be freed, Murad IV was too weak to turn the bolt. The Djinn fell into endless slumber once more. It wasn't until another woman's arrival that the Djinn's second resurrection began. Alithia stared in shock at the enormous foot before her. When she returned to her room, a gigantic Djinn was curled up in her living room. The Djinn seemed curious about everything around him. He reached out to the nearby television, bringing Einstein out of the TV as a gift for Alithia. Looking at the panicked Einstein in the palm of the Djinn's hand, Alithia immediately demanded that he be put back on the TV. It turned out that the day before, Alithia had stumbled upon a delicate bottle at the market. While cleaning the bottle meticulously, she accidentally opened the cap. Thus, a Djinn sealed for 3,000 years appeared in her room. Alithia had only gone out to get some takeout, and the Djinn transformed to human size again. He wanted to fulfill Alithia's 3 wishes to free himself from King Solomon's curse, but Alithia claimed she had no wishes, which shocked the Djinn, causing his pajamas to tear. 3,000 years ago, the Djinn was merely a servant to the Queen of Sheba. One day, King Solomon learned that the Queen of Sheba was the embodiment of beauty and traveled great distances to propose to her. In front of everyone, Solomon calmly resumed playing his instrument. The gathered gods were all moved, and the Queen of Sheba was completely won over by Solomon's talent. In the end, after the Djinn's desperate attempts to dissuade him, Queen of Sheba but only shed a single tear in his honor. To test Solomon, the Queen of Sheba posed 3 nearly impossible tasks. Find the lost red thread in the 1,000 rooms of the palace, reveal the true name of the Queen of Sheba's mother, discover the deepest desire of a woman's heart. These 3 seemingly impossible tasks were no challenge for Solomon. Solomon, who could speak with animals, enlisted the help of ants to find the lost red thread. He asks an idol that has stood for ages for the real name of Queen of Sheba's mother. Through the Queen of Sheba's eyes, he discovered the deepest desire of a woman's heart. The Queen of Sheba was utterly conquered by his answers and granted him everything he desired. But at that moment, the Queen of Sheba noticed the Djinn hiding in the rafters. They both cried out in surprise. Solomon also noticed the Djinn hidden in the rafters. With a wave of his hand toward the bottle by the bed, Solomon captured the Djinn into the bottle and threw it out the window. And soon, the woman who would make the Djinn willingly seal himself for the 3rd time would appear. The Djinn used magic to melt a bottle, then sealed himself inside forever. Centuries ago, a woman weighing over 500 kilograms slipped and accidentally crushed the stone steps that sealed the Djinn. The Djinn, who was sealed under the steps, was finally released. The Djinn wanted to grant Sugarlump 3 wishes to lift Solomon's curse from himself, but Sugarlump cursed all gods as deceitful and threw the bottle into the river. Over 100 years later, a strange bottle was found in the belly of a captured fish, and an old man gave it to his 16-year-old bride. Zefir, curious, Zefir pried open the bottle, and the Djinn was released once more. Zefir was a brilliant inventor, and her creations amazed the Djinn. She could have invented flying machines centuries before the Wright brothers, but because she was a woman, her inventions were never seen by the world. At that time, only men's intelligence was recognized by society. Zefir's thirst for knowledge was beyond imagination. Her first wish was to have access to a vast collection of books. So, the Djinn granted her every scientific work from all times and places. To keep it secret, the Djinn hid each book inside the bottles Zefir collected. Over time, the Djinn realized he had fallen completely in love with Zefir. He was captivated by her dedication and focus. Zefir, however, was even more obsessed with her study of mathematics, on the verge of unlocking the mysteries of time, space, and matter. But Zefir struggled to solve the final puzzle, leaving her very frustrated. So, Zefir made her second wish to the Djinn. She wished for help in solving the last mystery between the 3. When the wish was granted, Zefir experienced a moment of clarity. She became the first human to discover electromagnetism and the science of forces. Just as Zefir was about to make her 3rd wish, which would finally free the Djinn from Solomon's curse, the Djinn stopped her, because once the last wish was made, the Djinn would return to the divine realm, and they would be separated forever. Upon learning this, Zefir became furious, believing that the Djinn, like other men, was using her and deceiving her feelings. To prove his loyalty, the Djinn took a bottle and sealed himself inside again, hoping to alleviate Zefir's doubts. He wished to stay by Zefir's side forever, but Zefir was still angry. As the Djinn was about to return to the bottle, Zefir angrily uttered a final remark. Zefir's angry remark was taken as a wish and fulfilled, making her completely forget the Djinn. Even though the Djinn was right in front of her, the Djinn never again saw his beloved one last time after that. And so, 300 years passed. Now, the Djinn, who had been sealed for 3,000 years, was about to enter the modern world. This is a poignant love story between a human and a god. Alithia stumbled upon this bottle by chance, inadvertently releasing the Djinn once more. The Djinn, while exploring the various books in the room, began to recount his story to Alithia, and he also promised to grant her 3 wishes. Alithia was deeply moved by the Djinn's tragic love story, and she wanted to heal his wounded heart. The love that the Djinn lost 300 years ago, Alithia decided to give back to him unreservedly. The Djinn was profoundly touched by Alithia's sincerity, and he embraced her, fulfilling her first wish. Her wish was for him to love her wholeheartedly. Alithia, with the Djinn in the bottle, returned to her home. However, she was stopped by security at the airport. Alithia patiently explained to the staff that it was just a salt bottle, but the airport staff were suspicious of Alithia's actions. They carefully opened the bottle, inspected it, and even tasted its contents. Just as Alithia thought she was cleared and ready to take back the bottle, the security officer turned towards the scanning machine. When the bottle reappeared, Alithia breathed a sigh of relief, hastily took it, and left. Finally, they arrived back at her home. While Alithia went upstairs to change her clothes, the Djinn once again revealed his true form. He listened in amazement to the changes that had occurred in the world over the past 300 years. Humanity had never moved so swiftly. People's emotions had never been so cold. At the same time, human power had never been so strong. They could now stop the bleeding in patients' brains. They invented colliders to explore the essence of matter. They created giant dishes to listen to dead stars. There were also towering, intricate buildings, complex transportation hubs, and the various sky-piercing signal towers before him. In just 300 years, humanity had achieved so much. Once regarded as mere dust by the gods, humans now wielded power that surpassed even that of the Djinn and angels. At the same time, the electromagnetic waves from televisions, telephones, and other devices on Earth's surface caused immense harm to all living beings except humans. The Djinn, having come to the human world, was tormented by these waves at all times. Perhaps this place had already become a forbidden zone for deities. One day, Alithia came home to find the room filled with floating dust. She called out for the Djinn but received no response. When she finally reached the basement, she found the Djinn curled up on the floor, motionless. Alithia touched him, and his body suddenly crumbled like sand. She turned on the light and realized that the Djinn had fallen into a deep sleep. She desperately tried to wake him. As the Djinn attempted to speak, his mouth also began to collapse like sand. Alithia quickly cupped his face in her hands, fearing he would disappear from her sight. The Djinn finally woke up, and when he realized that he had just fallen asleep, he immediately fell into an endless panic. Gods do not sleep. The Djinn knew he was severely harmed by human electromagnetic waves and had little time left. At the end of his life, he wanted to give Alithia all his love. He eagerly wanted to take Alithia on a picnic, play tennis, and serenade her with the most beautiful songs on the ukulele. Seeing her beloved in pain, Alithia gazed deeply into the Djinn's eyes and made her second wish without hesitation. If this world is not suitable for you, I wish for you to return to your paradise. No matter where, our love remains unchanged. As soon as Alithia finished speaking, the bottle that once imprisoned the Djinn shattered. In another way, Alithia had lifted the Djinn's curse. At the same time, they forever kept their love for each other in their hearts. Afterward, Alithia wrote the Djinn story into a book and made it into a movie. Watching the affectionate couples, Alithia contentedly reminded herself that she had once had such love. She walked lightly through the park and up a small hill. Suddenly, she stopped and turned her head with delight. The Djinn had returned. From then on, they would live happily together for a period of time every so often.